Before Call of Duty, before Battlefield, before even Medal of Honor and things like Unreal Tournament, there was Delta Force, a game produced by Nova Logic that helped propel the FPS genre. For many, you might remember playing some of these games as there's been a few: Delta Force 1 and 2, Land Warrior, Task Force Dagger, Urban Warfare, Black Hawk Down, and so on. But the last of the franchise introductions we saw was in 2009, 15 years ago. That is, until recently. Now, Delta Force Hawk Ops is in the works, and we're finally starting to see a large number of gameplay reveals, trailers, and details about the game, with even playable demos upcoming that I think you should know about. So today, we're going to dive into what Delta Force Hawk Ops is, what it's all about, and if it might be the next FPS for you. So drop your thoughts as we go along, do me the biggest favor and drop a like on the video to let me know if you'd like to see more Delta Force coverage, as well as just to help the video out in the algorithm with a switch to multi-game coverage here, and of course, make sure to subscribe for more content like this. Anyways, let's jump into it. So, Delta Force. For the last 15 years, again, we have not seen one of these, so what's it going to be like here upcoming? Well, officially speaking, the Delta Force team describes it as a new cross-platform tactical shooter where you'll play the role of an operator tasked with accomplishing extreme missions throughout precise tactical planning and applications. But in reality, if you break that down a little further, the entire game package is going to be something that kind of has a little bit of everything for everyone. That is, assuming it all works out, as it seems like they're pushing for, where you're going to have large-scale PvP, an extraction game mode, and a campaign mode. The large-scale PvP regular multiplayer is going to be called Havoc Warfare, where it's large teams on massive maps featuring military vehicles, tanks, helicopters, and of course, your standard infantry gameplay. So there's sort of standard approach to multiplayer, something comparable maybe to Call of Duty's Ground War in the recent years, to Battlefield's Conquest, stuff like that. Now, in their initial marketing assets back in August when the game was announced, they also did announce a deathmatch-style game mode was sort of in that plan, but we'll see if that actually is still attached to it once the game comes out. But what we know right now is this is going to be a larger combat zone. You'll also notice that in the gameplay that has been shown off already, there's that large-scale combat, but also players have abilities akin to other hero shooters. I immediately think of Black Ops 3 with that futuristic setting as well, but I suppose you could also consider things like Overwatch, Apex, you name it. You'll have specific class selections where you can dive into 4 classes: Assault, Sniper, Engineer, and Medic, each with unique roles to fulfill. But that's your standard multiplayer experience, and honestly, that's only one pillar of the game so far. Additionally, there's that hazard operations, the formation of 3-man squads with classes, gear, maps, routes, and all to adapt on the fly, where you're hunting for resources and rare loot around the world to outwit enemy AI and other player squads, where you ultimately want to extract to claim the rewards you looted or picked up along the way. So this is their second pillar of the game, which is an extraction mode, kind of combining again those abilities, those gameplay loops you might become accustomed to within the standard multiplayer experience. And then they have campaign mode, which is Black Hawk Down, a remaster of the original Delta Force Black Hawk Down story with the iconic scenes where you can rediscover Mogadishu, immerse yourself in that first-person retelling of Delta Operation, with classic characters both mysterious and iconic coming back here for this one in particular, this part, I think is probably going to be a big focal point for the realistic players, the people that have played Delta Force in the past, because the core MP experience surely is a departure from that classic Delta Force game. A near future setting, hero abilities, and things like that, whereas previously, well, it was not that. And, well, of course, all of that, and for free, that will be a draw. And yeah, free. Free to play is going to make this, I think, something that opens it up to a huge audience initially. It's said right now that it's going to be on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, though unspecified on which platform. I'm personally going to take a guess and say it's next gen only, so PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X, but who knows? But then they're also releasing on mobile as well. And what's interesting is while this game is being developed by the Timmy Group, a subsidiary of Tencent, which we'll touch on in just a second with that aspect, but for those familiar with a game called, I don't know, Call of Duty Mobile, Timmy developed that experience. Now, I'm not particularly well versed in mobile gaming, but I feel like I see a lot of the highlights per se from media clips and other things that make their way onto my timelines from COD Mobile, and not a whole ton of the "this game sucks" type of things. So maybe that's just my luck where I've somehow avoided it, but also when you're tackling something with such a wide scale caliber, having a team that managed one of the largest mobile FPS experiences out there, I don't think is a bad idea. So we'll see how it works out, but I'm sure there could be worse candidates for this. And also, the game is going to be crossplay, which I'm interested to see what happens with this, if they're going to have any barriers, like will mobile be able to play with PC and console? Will there be just console to console crossplay, PC to console? we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, that's all interesting and everything, and that's the basis of the game itself. But when will we get to see more? When will we get to play? Because we're only just now starting to see more information when this was announced all the way back in August. Now, seeing more, that actually may be something that we see more and more gradually roll out here, and actually in pretty quick succession. The Delta Force socials have started to get a bit more active here, and instead of once every few months for a trailer, it's picking up speed quite a bit. The first 4 videos from their account came across 3 months. The last 4, they came across the last 3 weeks, with reveals in the past week for the extraction mode, the hazard operations, and the gameplay showcase of their larger scale standard multiplayer mode, Havoc Warfare, launching today. So maybe we'll see something like next week for the Black Hawk Down Remastered campaign if things decide to follow suit. But as for playing, that's where things get a bit fuzzy. We do have some general ideas, but like still nothing truly confirmed for a lot of the dates. The plan has been laid out for a while here, but starting in October of last year, there was a first hands-on and capture session in China close to their base of operations. Beyond that, there's currently plans for a global tour, as they call it, here in Q1 of 2024, which I think will mostly just boil down to the upcoming event in Los Angeles, because according to their Discord, that's going to be on the 16th, where that will be a closed offline session that will allow players selected to both experience hazard operations and Havoc Warfare. Now, they said there's going to be more, but so far a little over a week from the first event here, and then a little over 3 weeks away from the end of Q1, not sure if they're going to be able to fit more into that target window. That seemingly appears to be a truly random selection too. I could be wrong, but I don't think that I've heard any mentions from any other creators or anything attending this event, and instead is truly just sourced from their Discord and their survey application, likely also being locals to the Los Angeles area unless anybody wants to pay for travel costs. However, in H1, or the first half of 2024, so upwards of June 30th, there will also be a worldwide alpha test. No explicit dates are known for this just yet, but there are plans to open it up in the next few months for players to take part in and experience it in the comfort of their own homes and at their own setups. Now, initial impressions here from all that we've seen so far from the reveal trailer, the new gameplay trailers for the subsidiary modes and everything like that, I think this has a lot of potential. We'll touch on in a second that I absolutely am skeptical about some things, but I think there's potential. Firstly, free to play. Obviously, a massive audience are getting rid of that initial barrier of entry of what would be $50, $60, $70 that somebody would have to pay if they just want to try it out. For free to play, you can try it out, and if you don't like it, well, you only lost like a couple of hours of your time probably. If you love it, you may have just found your new favorite game, and again, all for no cost. So that's massive to growing an audience, to growing a fan base, and from a team that developed COD Mobile, something that is such a large-scale free-to-play project, it is something that maybe things could go well. I also think it's worth noting the scale of this, because assuming everything else is pulled off as it's said to, this would, besides being the sort of free-to-play alternative to a COD or Battlefield hybrid, this would genuinely be the same amount of content you'd see as a launch with like a premium $70 Call of Duty title, a campaign remaster, a multiplayer experience, and a third game mode in the case of the extraction mode. Other free-to-play elements really just focus on like one of those 3 pillars. Free-to-play battle royales like Fortnite, Apex, and others, it's all that singular, linear, last-person standing experience. Extraction shooters, they may have a narrative element to them, but nothing with a dedicated campaign mode, just like things you have to pick up as you go along. And arcade shooters, well, X-Defiant's another example here at this, that's going to be just solely the multiplayer arena experience. So you take all 3 of those things, package it into one, and then just say, have at it. That's kind of wild, right? Like, to think about how big of an offering for no initial barrier of entry, that's pretty cool, I think. Graphically speaking, it's not stunning. It's not like it's going to be that standard of, okay, but can your system run Delta Force Hawk Ops? Like that old meme of how, hey, could your system run Crysis titles? But it's also not the end of the world to me. I'd much rather have a smooth gaming experience, things to accomplish and work towards in a good, engaging, and fun gameplay loop, than have the highest quality of graphics available, which might sound kind of funny and ironic here given, like, maybe check back in like a week or two, because there's a series that I'm going to be hopefully starting here on the channel that is kind of funny and talking directly to the graphical standard of stuff. So if the game is good fun, I don't really care about that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like, the graphics, while they're not like, oh my god, that's amazing, they're also not bad by any means. I do personally like also that there's a bit of everything for everyone. A campaign that should hopefully be a faithful remaster as a realistic tactical experience for players that want that, a multiplayer that doesn't take itself too seriously, and an extraction mode that can capitalize and build off that hype of the mode that's currently the new sort of stepping stone forward for an industry standard, I think. Now, that said, that sounds cool and all, but I do again have my concerns. Number 1, the developers. Frankly, I don't follow as much as others, so feel free to fill in the blanks, or if I'm off base, feel free to correct me, but with this being backed by Tencent, some might not take that as a good sign. With Tencent's monopolistic traits, their history with pay-to-win models, and blatant rip-offs of games, it might not be enticing to some players, which, speaking of, the very fact of this could have something for everyone may also fall into an area of concern, because the gameplay loops, fundamentals, and foundational items all can really be traced back to other major successes in the industry. Hero and ability gameplays like Black Ops 3, Apex, Overwatch, you name it, big map destructive combat in multiplayer like Battlefield, extraction modes. I mean, we don't even have the limit to that one. We've talked about multiple times recently the big craze of how this is going to be the next big thing. And in fact, I've seen their art Bible that they use for internal referencing from when I did an integration back in August, and like there's direct reference of other games. And although at that point I hope it is just references, that's kind of standard with art and design, is like, hey, this is kind of what I'm wanting to go for this. They did some cool stuff here at this, how can we build off of that? That's kind of standard within the brainstorming aspect of games, but there also have been some rumors that animations were just straight up pulled and lifted from competitors. So essentially a copy and paste in some aspects. So hopefully that's just all that is rumors. But anyways, for the very reason that it might have something for everybody, it might not appear to have its own identity to some. And I get that. Not to mention, for those that love the classic Delta Force game, the general sentiment surrounding the game itself is such a drastic departure from the original source material. So people naturally are unhappy about that as well, for the diehards and the ones that have been wanting for 15 years to see another Delta Force game. Additionally, free-to-play always causes some problems, specifically with cheating, but also one thing that I want to focus on here with this is monetization-wise. I mean, first, I think it's very fair to say that a free-to-play game should absolutely have a killer anti-cheat. We see that with games now. It's not going to change that cheating is absolutely something very apparent with free-to-play games. There's nothing stopping a cheater from, say, just making another account if they get banned because, well, it doesn't cost them money. If a game costs $50, $60, $70 and you cheat, you get banned, chances are maybe you'll do it one more time, but like you're not going to spend $500 to just continuously cheat over and over on a game. But free to play, there's not that issue at all. But honestly, I think one of the biggest concerns whenever I think about this is the monetization systems going forward, because I get like Tencent is like unfathomably large. Like, let's just say they invest a huge market comparison of capital. AAA games of like $100 million and up are massive games. Like that meme of a quad A game from Skull and Bones could probably fit that. So like, let's just say the highest number they'd put in is like $100 million. That'd be a huge dent in the budget of Tencent, sure, but the company that's worth about $330 billion, they could do that over 3,000 times with that market value. Now, obviously, that's not going to be happening. No company's ever going to be like, let's just drop $100 million and not make any profit off it. And to be clear, the game isn't going to cost that much, but I'm just saying, like, to make a point how much games can cost and just like the worst case scenario here at this, but the point stands. Supplemental income and revenue is going to have to come from somewhere. And with this being a free-to-play game, no sales and copies, well, it's going to likely come from microtransactions. And with the history of some pay-to-win elements, I mean, we've seen recently in the past 10 years, predatory microtransactions in games that cost money to buy. Well, for a game that's free to play and potentially could have a global and expensive budget with it, it can definitely be concerning for sure. So anyways, ultimate thoughts right now. I think it's too early to say how we think and how we feel because we've never gotten hands-on gameplay just yet. We've only seen bits and pieces of trailers and gameplay footage. Do I think that this will be the best game in the world? The most polished, perfect thing? Absolutely not. I don't know that any FPS game right now has that potential to shock the world and be an absolute game of the year, raving reviews candidate, but I do think this could be something as a fun alternative that I'm at least looking forward to learning more about as time passes. I think that with the proper level of attention and care, there really can be a bit of everything for everybody. The remaster of Black Hawk Down for the hardcore fans, the hero shooter Havoc Warfare experience for those that like a little bit more of a large-scale, fast-paced combat, and then the Hazard operations for players who want a new extraction loop, something that has a bit more of an arcade feel compared to the more hardcore experiences like Tarkov, Gray Zone, and others, something to perhaps give the players like that middle ground of, say, if they enjoyed DMZ, after it lost its support, they have something new to play. I think ultimately there's potential here, so that's where I'm going to turn it over to you guys. What do you think of Delta Force Hawk Ops? Think it's going to be something good? You're looking forward to hearing more? Whatever the case, let me know down below. But before we wrap everything up, make sure you check out my friends over at Gamer Advantage for what I firmly believe are the best blue light glasses on the market. I've worked with these guys now for 3+ years, which is crazy to consider, and I cannot recommend them enough. They're the most lightweight, comfortable, and durable frames on the market as far as I've used, and I definitely think they've helped my daily productivity. Full transparency, they're a bit more of an investment, yeah, but I definitely think your vision is worth investing into, especially if you're like me, you look at a monitor, you're gaming, or even just on your phone for a good chunk of the day. So if you guys would like to learn more, at the very least, I'd recommend checking out their website where they can better break down the science, all the specifics, all that way better than I ever could. But what I can personally say is that I'd highly recommend them out of all the time I've worked with them. So if you'd like to learn more, check the link in the description below. And if you'd like to pick something up for yourself, use code Espresso to get 10% off your entire order. But for now, that's what we're gonna call it. Let me know your thoughts down below on Delta Force Hawk Ops. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to at least learning more. Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Delta Force and other FPS content here on the channel. I'd love to have you in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.